Classics presents
princess was born to a king and queen. They were so happy they decided to hold a great banquet to celebrate the event. Invitations were prepared, and a special one with a big red ribbon tied in a bow was sent to the 7 fairies of the forest. So they were to be godmothers to the princess and bring her good luck. For days the cooks and bakers worked like bees, making delicate roasts and fluffy pastries to please the dainty appetites of fairies. For the king and queen didn't want to offend the little people in the slightest. On the day of the great feast, the 7 fairies arrived, sailing through the air in a brilliant blue chariot drawn by 100 swallows. The fairies were delighted to be such honored guests. But then, at the height of the festivities, there was a great flapping of wings, a strange wild call, and through the banquet hall window flew an old gray gander, ridden by an old wrinkled fairy dressed all in black. King and queen were alarmed. They suddenly realized that there was an 8th fairy, a fairy from across the mountains whom they had not invited. And now she had come anyhow, without an invitation. The king and queen apologized and made her welcome. But the 8th fairy refused even to smile, and stalked into a corner with a scowl fierce enough to make it thunder and rain. At last the time came for the fairies to give gifts to the little princess. The first fairy waved her wand and said, "She shall be good as gold." "She shall be the cleverest princess in the world," said the second. "And the most beautiful," said the third. "The happiest," said the fourth. "With the sweetest voice ever heard," said the fifth. "And everyone shall love her," said the sixth. Everyone waited for the 7th fairy to speak, but she had disappeared. At that moment, the 8th fairy stepped forward, waving her black wand, and said, "The princess shall stick her finger on the needle of a spinning wheel and die." Suddenly, out from behind a curtain stepped the 7th fairy. She had been hiding until she discovered what trouble the 8th fairy meant to bring. Now, she couldn't do away entirely with the 8th fairy's spell, but she could soften the blow. "The princess shall not die of the wound," cried the 7th fairy. "She shall only sleep for 100 years, until a prince comes to awaken her with a kiss." Everyone was overjoyed that the wicked fairy's spell was partly broken. But they left the palace wondering if the little princess would prick her finger on a spinning wheel and become a real sleeping beauty. The king and queen decided to do everything in their power to protect their princess from the wicked fairy's charm. Soldiers were sent near and far to gather together every spinning wheel in their kingdom. They were burned or broken into little pieces, so that in all the land there was not a single spinning wheel left. The years went by, and as the 6 good fairies had prophesied, the princess grew up to be extremely beautiful, clever, with a nightingale's voice, and loved by all who knew her. One day, the young princess decided to explore the castle, which was very large, and had rooms and hallways she had never seen. Soon she came to a winding staircase which led to an old tower. Up the stairs she went, opened a door, and stopped. past. Until at last, in the 100th year, a young prince from a neighboring kingdom, hunting in the forest, spied the towers of the forgotten castle. Curious, he rode forward. Inside the lost castle, the prince was surprised to find everyone asleep. At last he reached the little room in the tower, and there before the spinning wheel he found Sleeping Beauty. The prince was so overwhelmed by her beauty that he couldn't resist stooping to kiss her on the cheek. At that instant, Sleeping Beauty awoke, and so did the guards at their posts, the cook at his stove, the king and queen on their thrones. The castle was alive.